So good morning, guys. It is July 25th, 2024. Back out with the young birds. This is a morning training toss. It is about 6:15 a.m. We are at half a mile right now. We've jumped out, basically doubled the last distance. I think from here out, we're just going to start doubling out. So we're going out that way, half a mile to the loft. I'm down one bird. There was one of them on the last toss. I don't know if he hit a wire or what happened. Seems to have a little bit of an injury to the leg. I don't see any breaks or cuts or anything like that. It's probably just clipped something coming home, just inexperience. So they're in the sick pen for the next few days. But we're going to go from half a mile today. Staying together a lot better today. I'm also hoping this is going to teach them to range a little bit more than they have. They've stuck pretty close to the loft. So this is new flying territory for them. And that over there, looks like they're going to continue to circle a little more. Yeah, that's them breaking back over in the direction they need to go. So not too much circling. They are really inexperienced for their age. Somebody had asked how old some of these guys are, and they're about 2.5 to 8 months old. Some of them are January hatch. Some people have wondered why there's so few of them. I actually had the start of a really good breeding season. And unfortunately, back in April, I bought a pair of fancy birds for a genetic project and kind of trusted my eyes and my gut on them. Quarantined them about 14 days, and it turns out the hen of the pair passed on Adenovirus Type 2 into the loft I put them in, and it gradually spread. And I tell you what, that's a disease you do not want. There's not a cure for it. It's something that just has to run its course. And it was pretty devastating. And it took out a lot of young birds. The Adenovirus Type 2 tends to just kind of limit performance, but the Adeno Type 2 will kill them. It's a viral infection, if you're not familiar with it. And what it does, it actually causes the mitochondrial of the bird to start releasing proteins that are not really natural to the bird's system. And the system of the birds basically detects those proteins as a toxin, and they tend to be absorbed in the liver and kidneys, and it can cause very, very rapid organ failure, sometimes within about 48 hours, and it is nasty stuff. It took quite a while to diagnose, and by the time it was diagnosed, it had really ripped through, and it killed quite a few stock birds because it just went from loft to loft. I actually found, contrary to the common idea, cleanliness is not next to godliness in some cases, and heavy scraping during the infection actually spread it, because it turns out the virus actually stays active in the droppings for up to 30 days. It remains active. And needless to say, every time you scrape it, you just spread it. And that's why some people think the adenovirus 2 is airborne. It's really not. It is passed through the droppings and through the body fluids of the pigeons. But needless to say, pretty devastating. That is why there are so few young birds. It absolutely devastated them. And there's usually secondary infections carried along. That basically any bacteria that are present in a pigeon system, it just causes it to over proliferate and take over. And it was devastating. I basically had, in addition to the adenovirus, I saw salmonella in some lofts and probably what was E. coli in other lofts. And the bacterial infections were pretty easy to get back under control with sulfa drugs and Baytril, but which I normally don't do. I mean, that tells you how bad it was, is that I actually flock treated, which is not something I've done since 1995 or 1996. That's how bad it was. And needless to say, despite doing that and kind of getting the secondary infection under control, the adenovirus continued to rip through, and you would see a bird fine one day and it was dead the next. And that's what the adenovirus does. I was finally able to get it under control with Clorox bleach, of all things. But a lot of people think they can control it with apple cider vinegar or hydrogen peroxide. And about the only two things that start to get it under control are Clorox bleach and Virkon S. And those are the only two things. And it's not that it neutralizes the virus. It basically inactivates them. And it takes a little longer in the bird system, but as far as their digestive systems, it takes a while longer, 5 or 6 days, and needless to say, you can have a lot of fatalities. But that is why there are so few young birds. Absolutely devastating disease, and it really just hit the young birds hard because there was kind of because there's a mixing going on from 13 different lofts in my case. And kind of each of those lofts, because I don't do much mixing between them apart from the young birds. I don't move birds around amongst them. Because of that, you kind of have its own little microbiome of bacteria and so on. And needless to say, it's pretty hard to tackle when you have basically a colony like that that's not just in one big loft. So that is kind of the situation. I've got more young birds coming up, and I actually had birds in individual pens with wire bottoms. They were not affected at all. That's how we know it's not airborne. It didn't affect them at all or their offspring. But the ones that wood floors, they just spread and spread and spread. And needless to say, that is why there's so few young birds. I may do a video on the adenovirus too, kind of as more explanation as far as how it seemed to transmit, how I managed to get it under control, because it is, I'll tell you what, almost 50 years in birds, it is the worst thing I've ever seen. And it is by far the worst, by far the worst disease outbreak I've ever seen. And I saw salmonella and PMV in the mid-90s and thought that was bad. And the adenovirus too is bad stuff. Might go out and check, if you're interested in that subject. In the meantime, you might go out and look at Frank McLaughlin's channel. He's got a video called Healthy Pigeons Dropping Dead. That will give you some more insights. I really recommend that video. I unfortunately saw it too late. He did it almost about the same time I had the outbreak, but I didn't get a YouTube notification for it. And I wish I had a notification, but that is it, guys. I will talk to you later. Try to keep them flying out there. It's tough sometimes.